Hi, how you doing? Justin here. I'm sitting here with one of my favourite guitar players, Jim Campilongo. So, how you doing, Jim? And
Hi,
thanks
Justin.
for agreeing to do an interview.
Thanks for having me.
So, I thought we'd just have a little chat about your guitar playing and what you do and how you do it. So, what got you started on guitar?
Well, you know, just probably my sisters, you know, were listening to music. They're older than me. One's 8 years older, one's 4 years older. So while I was reading horror comics in the bedroom with the drapes closed, you know, I'd hear Beatles and Hendrix, and they listened to this band called the Incredible String Band. Yeah. And I really was attracted to it. I don't know, I think I was about 9 or something. So I started buying records, and what I did was, I mean, other than Beatles, the first record I bought was Jimi Hendrix's Greatest Hits. Then I got the White Album, but I knew I liked really long improv, but I didn't know what it was called. I didn't go into a record store and go, hey, I really want some long improv, you know. I didn't know what that was. So I'm 11, and so I just go into record stores and look for records that had just 1 or 2 songs on it. You know, I'd go through, and so I ended up getting some good stuff. I got John Coltrane Live in Japan, which was a double album with 1 song on 2 sides of a record. And I got John McLaughlin Devotion, which was a great record.
That's cool stuff.
Yeah, some really good stuff, and you know, and I really liked it too. I mean, despite the fact, you know, I was now 12, I really liked John Coltrane and McLaughlin. And then I heard Roy Buchanan. I saw him on a PBS special, who played a Telecaster, who does a lot of the things that I do, or some of the sounds I get. You know, that sound. Really expressive things that didn't sound like, you know, whatever kind of guitar, which I like that too, and that was a kind of a bad impersonation of hollow body jazz guitar, but which is nice too. You know, you can get a lot of nice sounds on these things. But that particular sound was what really attracted me to him. So then I ended up getting a guitar, and you know, I got one from the guy across the street. It was a Green Stamps guitar. It was in America, you used to go to a gas station or, you know, something like that, and you bought a certain amount of gas. They'd give you these stamps, and you put in your books. I don't know if they had them in the UK. No?
I've heard of them.
Yeah, well, they don't have them anymore. But anyway, and it was that kind of guitar, and I went and studied with this woman in a local music store named Bunny Gregoire, who was a beatnik at the time. I mean, this was, I don't know, 1970 something, and she was definitely one of the most exciting people I had ever met at that point in my life. I went into the lesson, I think she was wearing a beret and going, hey man, when cats dig on the jazz sound, you know, and I'm not doing her justice, but she was really a character, and I loved her very much. Wow. And she turned me on to a lot of great music. She turned me on to Howard Roberts as a dirty guitar player. She liked Roy Buchanan. She tried to get me into the George Van Epps book, which at the time I was really against, because I just wanted to learn Spoonful by Cream note for note, you know. I didn't want to learn, you know, voice leading or whatever, stuff that I like now. So I studied with her for about 1.5 years, and after that I stopped studying and, you know, learned some things from some local guys, but just ended up playing in bands and stuff. And I was lucky enough at the time, because the music was as much as the culture as, let's say, computers are now. I would, you know, I don't know. I mean, that's what everybody shared. There was really not much else, you know, and even, you know, you couldn't email your friend, you know, you'd have to either call him up or go over his house. And I mean, I'm not saying it's an exact metaphor, but it does seem like everybody played guitar, everybody played in a band, and you didn't have to be that great either. You know, and so I ended up meeting a guy, Ken Owen, and we started jamming, and next thing you know, we learned a few songs, and we were playing parties, and because there was always bands at parties, there was always bands at weddings, and you didn't really have to be that good because there was always live music. So I ended up playing professionally, you know, pretty young. And that's really how I learned. She showed me the pentatonic scale, you know, among other things, but that was, you know, a complete breakthrough for me. And she showed me scales and stuff, but really I learned very haphazardly. I mean, I don't think it's, you know, it's kind of fashionable to say that in some ways, but I really, if anybody's listening to this out there, I would really recommend studying formally and learn as much as you can about music, because it just took me longer. For example, you know, I was playing major scales, but I kind of didn't really know what to do with them. And then I heard Lou Reed, you know, Rock and Roll Circus Live, and I heard their version, which a lot of people don't like, but I do, and of Sweet Jane, where there's this really pretty kind of cascading major scale soloing, and that's how I learned, you know, just to go, you know, just to play in thirds. So I don't know if you could hear it, you know, and that's how I learned that, and from that little seed, I don't know if a mighty oak grew, but that's so that's an example of how I learned, very in small increments. And information was harder to hear. I mean, I read in an interview somewhere that Paul McCartney said they drove across town, took a bus, because somebody knew a B7 chord, you know. And it wasn't quite that bad, but it was, you know, there was a void of information. You know, it was beyond me how Roy Buchanan did play over changes. I mean, for example, like, you know, if we're playing over this chord, which is a G7 chord, the scale I knew was that, you know, and it took me a long time to figure out that this scale, there was a very important difference, that this chord has a B in it, and my scale had a B flat. Now, in some ways I was missing that because, you know, I might do variations like this. Well, this note wasn't in the chord either, and that's fine. But I did have a revelation where this note was important, because I got tired of that, you know, sound. What I liked was... I went to C, and what it really was, you know, just I started playing over, just accenting, just basic triads, and taught myself how to play, you know, country. And country guitar really helped me do that. A guy named Roy Nichols, I got a record. When I was in my teens, kind of as a joke almost to myself, I was at a record store, I think it was 99 cents, and it was Merle Haggard live in Muskogee. And there was a Merle Haggard song about kind of anti-hippie and kind of anti-marijuana, you know, at the time, and it was a hit. I don't know if Okie from Muskogee, I'm proud to be an Okie from Muskogee. And I saw that, I thought, oh, that'll be funny, you know. And I brought home the record, and I was really amazed by the guitar playing, and they had a song, Working Man Blues, on it. How difficult it was, because I thought it was going to be really easy, you know, and it really was difficult. And then I got into Chet Atkins and just studied records. I mean, it took me a long time to get good, you know. I mean, I was good, I was very competent, let's say when I was 17, you know. I was playing in clubs in San Francisco, but keep in mind that every band, every club had a band. There'd be 3 bands on every block, and I was playing weddings and everything. And that's one of the things I feel bad for some of the 17-year-olds of today is it doesn't seem like they have that many venues, as I did, and that's how I learned.
Yeah.
And a lot of the music was very simple. The hits of the day. I mean, I don't know what modern music. I'm not completely up on it, to be completely honest.
Now, you kind of already touched on a little bit in the interest in country, you were doing some. Now, one of your kind of signature tricks is the bending behind the nut there. Now, is that kind of like a pedal steel? Is that what inspired the idea, or did you just...
I just, I started very small with it. I had seen Roy Buchanan do something like it. I forget on what song, I think it might have been this. Something like that, but he did. And I never saw anything like that, and all that is just, instead of going, which is kind of a blues cliche, right? You just bend G up to G sharp, and then play E. Now I like that, and I did that for a while, and then I figured something else out. I figured out a couple of things, like, something like that, because it really does hurt your first finger in the beginning. And so all I did was move it around. That's the same lick, but closer to the ceiling.
So you're bending up a tone on the...
Yeah, that's the B7 that Paul McCartney was looking for. So...
Is it very often the third? Is it very often minor third going to the major third?
Well, that's the cool thing about it is, I use it a number of ways. First of all, my dexterity there is going to, I'll play E7, that's an A7. You got to remember, if I did this, then I tried this, then I tried this. See, that's an octave higher than here. So, but it doesn't have to be in G. For example, that's around midnight. Okay, it's a, try it. Okay, now, what I like to do, I think that's the Thelonious Monk melody, but I like lower register, so I might move it here, and we're in E flat minor. Is my point, is it's not, we're in E flat minor, which isn't, the guitarist's favorite key traditionally. So that to me sounds more midnightish, first of all, to me. But, so you could just do something. So that's both this note. And it has a really nice sound, I think. So instead of, what is it? Sorry. So you get, it has a lot of potential, and obviously this note is a G, and it could be the 1 of G, but it could be the major third of E flat.
Yeah.
It could be the minor third of E minor.
Yeah.
It could be whatever, it could be so many things. The ninth of F minor. So that's how I play the open string thing, and lean towards note clusters. You know, so like maybe.
That was it in Columbia River. I love the way you.
Well, that's the Barney. That's the Barney Kessel. That's his intro. You know, and he does. You know what? No, I'm. And this is E. So that's a. You know, and you get a little stronger. You can see a little dent in my finger.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's okay now.
So is that like a bar chords thing when you first start and your fingers really
Yeah.
feel, and then after a few months or whatever?
Well,
it starts to
you know
come?
what I had to do was unlike a bar chord, it's like it'll kill your finger, then you have to stop. Then you go back and it'll kill your finger and you have to stop. And then like the third time it's okay.
Yeah, right, okay.
And then you build, you know, I could get, that was a major third. So, I mean, maybe some guys could do it further, I don't know. But
That's a lot. Now, have you scooped that out further?
yeah, this is my signature guitar. It's kind of, this was the guitar I played, my 59 top loader.
Oh, wow.
But Fender Custom Shop was kind enough to ask me if I wanted a model. You know, so I thought about it for 1,000th of a second. And,
I don't know.
yeah, it was quicker than that. You know, we came up with this. So, and it does. I mean, it doesn't really matter that there is a big scoop there, which I like.
Yeah.
I like the way it looks as much as anything. But I mean, you know, generally you're not going to hit wood. I mean, unless you're playing a Les Paul or something like that. The other thing is the neck has a nice, it's flat here. Like a lot of newer necks get kind of bulky down. Yeah, there's the bump, and I don't like that. And I work down here a lot. I mean, not only with, just I play a lot in first position because, as you know, there. I mean, I play up here once in a while too, but you know, so I like it. I don't want a bunch of wood back there. So, but you know, yeah, I use nines, you know, and that helps.
Cool. Are they fat frets as well? They look
yeah, they're super jumbo.
super jumpy.
Yeah, I mean, they're just the biggest.
Did you change frets on that then? Or is that their standard?
No.
You refret, right?
Yeah, but they got so flat, they were no longer jumbos. Yeah, and I was afraid to replace them.
Yeah.
You know.
And the other thing you did, I think we took some of the bridge.
Well, that's probably the most innovative thing, Justin, is you know, on a regular telly, you got this lip here that holds the soap dish, which no one uses. And I was always picking it, and so I raised my action as high as it possibly could go, so the strings exceeded the lip.
Right. Okay.
But on this one, we just took it off, and I really like that feature.
Does that mean you play with a lower action?
No, I mean, I got kind of used to high, but it means, you know, I mean, that was higher than I wanted. I guess so, it's a little lower, because it would really have to be high up here. I mean, too high. It was good for bending, but, I mean, funny enough, like, I mean, I bend down here, but I mean, I guess I bend, but I don't bend as much as I used to, that's for sure. You know, and I don't use much vibrato. You know, I like kind of things to sound flat. You know, sometimes I don't like vibrato. You know, because it sounds like Figaro to me. You know, if you go, you know, it's like it's good once in a while, but you know, I always liked. Roy used to do like. You know, and it just sounded so stark, you know, and it would be ruined if you went, you know, you don't really hear what it is, so.
Now, your other signature sound is the kind of the tone swells. It's almost like a wah-wah effect on the guitar. Now, have you done something funny to the guitar? Are you using like a different pod, or is it?
No, you just have to do it a little while. I mean, I really dislike modifications. I always think they make it harder, you know. There's like they have these alternate wiring that's supposed to give you a tone boost when you turn down. It's just horrible. Like, you know, it means you're kind of limited by what you have here.
Uh-huh.
One thing I like about the Telecaster, because I played a Strat for a while, a while back, was that this actually does something. Like from here to here, really is a substantial change, and that's why you get the that's why I can sound that way.
Yeah.
Because this is, but the thing is, I mean, I have pretty big hands, but I don't, a lot of people get bummed because they think you just curl your little finger around, but you don't. I mean, I don't. Maybe somebody does. It's like, see? It's like that.
You're using other fingers as well. They're all kind
You roll it.
Yeah.
So that's how you get it. I mean, you could do it with your, but I actually stopped doing volume swells, and now I just do tone swells because to me they compete with drums. I mean, you still get signal when you do this. That's then you bring it up. But here you're not going to get signal. And it's kind of like you almost just hear the end if somebody's, really playing the drums. So that's why,
And did you discover? How did you discover doing that? You just like
Roy Buchanan.
Oh, was it Roy Buchanan?
Yeah, Roy Buchanan really was a very innovative guitar player. I mean, I would really recommend his first record, Roy Buchanan. That's what it's called.
Is it the live one?
No, I mean, a lot of people like the live one. I'm really just into the first two. I mean, they're all really good. There's good tracks on all of them. I own all of them, and I feel, I humbly give my critique because he was, my mentor. I don't want to say like, oh yeah, but I mean, the first two records, Roy Buchanan's second album. Are the real records to get. When he was on Polydor, I felt like he was more versatile. He came up with all that kind of steel guitar kind of stuff. I mean, he's the guy who did that. I mean, a lot of people do that, but he really defined that. He played a lot with 6-chord, that kind of thing. He did all those voices.
That's really funny to see. I've heard that loads of times. Just seeing you holding the one chord and then picking the notes out individually just made a penny drop in my head. So
it's just the same. I mean, that looks like an F sharp minor, but it's an A6. So the main thing is it's to get the inversion. Give it that kind of sound anyway, but
you seem to be able to get a real strong vibrato from the neck. Are you having to really pull it much, or is it kind of just found the way to do it? Because that never works for me.
You have to really do it here. Sometimes my ribs are a little sore, but we can't complain. I mean, at least we're not in the NFL or anything. We'd really be getting beat up. I mean, look at a couple sore ribs. But sometimes my ribs hurt. But it's not as hard. I mean, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of times everyone thinks there's some magic thing. Like I have magic potentiometers and magic, scoop and a magic soft neck, and it's not that. You just keep doing it. And I'm not talking for 30 years. I mean, do it for 3 months, you'll get it. You really will.
Yeah. Now, your sound, we've talked about the signature guitar, and you're a Princeton man. That's the sound you got usually is this Fender Princeton.
Yeah, I mean, I like Princeton. So lately I've been using a Vibrolux. You saw me play on Monday, and I used the Vibrolux.
That was a Vibrolux. That was a single 15, is it?
It's actually 210s.
210s.
Yeah, and I mean, they're a little heavier. I like the portability of the Princeton. I like that it breaks up a little faster. but my band just seems to be getting louder and louder, you know, which I mean, and we get softer and softer too. You know, we've done both, but when it isn't softer and softer, it's nice to have a little headroom because I was starting to break nails, but you know, because you really got to dig in, you know. If I really have to play that hard, and that's pretty hard, you know, it starts to hurt or your hand will cramp. So it's a little less work. But the Princeton is a great amp. It's loud, has a vibrato, has reverb. You know, I've played it at huge venues, and I also played it, you know, on Conan O'Brien and Letterman. You know, and it was almost too loud. I mean, you know, they appreciate that. Like if I brought in a Vibrolux, it would have been too loud. So, but and all that said, I played, you know, with Pete Townsend and I played a Vibrolux, and we had a mic on it. You know, I mean, and it went through the PA, and that's one of the things guitarists learn is if you get, let's say you go, oh, I really want my sound. You know, I need my 6 Fender Twins on 10, you know, that's my sound. And you won't get mic'd. And that means the audience really won't hear you. And if the audience doesn't hear you, they won't connect with you. And if you can hear yourself, and with a Princeton, you know, I really hear it, and then you could feel it going through the mains. And it actually is a nice, I don't know, you could have a lighter touch and everything, because you can feel it. I mean, you can hear it, but you know, you'll hear it moving air, and yet, you know, you might, you know, something like, that's really light touch. You know, but if it's going through mains at Shepherd's Bush, you know, it's successful.
I'm loud enough.
Very loud, you know, and you're going through the main, so everybody, the person in the back row hears you.
And amp settings, are you kind of running on
10?
10 across the board, or is like the mid's backed off?
On the Princeton, it's 10 volume, 8 treble, 10 bass all the way. And then reverb is somewhere between 3 and 5.
Okay, so you're a reverbaholic.
Yeah, I'm definitely a reverbaholic. I mean, I think reverb makes the guitar sound more acoustic. You know, because if I play on either of those Martins, you're going to hear ding and hear overtones and kind of depth. You know, sometimes a great recording sound is really dry. I'm not saying that's not a pleasant or effective or applicable sound, but reverb makes it, you know, just sound a little more acoustic, if you will, and a little more magical. It gives it depth, a little mystery.
Do you tend to leave the vibrato on, or you switch it off even if
you know, I don't use vibrato too much, really. I'm always a little frustrated that it's never oomphy enough. You know, it doesn't go. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I did. Because that sounded like the vibrato I wanted to hear. Or the vibrato you'll get on a Vibro champ. But Vibro champs don't have reverb.
No.
But they have great vibrato. I think the circuitry on a Vibro champ's a little different. Do you know that? Okay, good.
I've got a 67 Vibro champ. It's my favorite. It's my most used amp, probably.
I just wish they had reverb.
Absolutely.
And I think they make small enough reverb tanks so you can smash one. But you need a different tube or something. There's some kind of real estate, you know, you need. But if there was a Vibro champ with reverb, I mean, those kind of Vibro champs, you know, and no.
So you never use like the Demeter, they've got a spring reverb pedal kind of thing. You never.
Well, I like to travel light, and even as a, you know, I always have. I don't like to bring. I don't bring extra guitars, or, I mean, I bring a guitar and a small amp, and you know, I bring a little bag, and you know, maybe it'll have charts in it or something. But I mean, I really. You know, if I have to bring a ton of stuff, it kind of makes me not enjoy the gig a little bit, because it's such a responsibility, you know, and especially here in New York, where bands play sometimes every hour.
Yeah.
You know, we're lucky enough to play 10 till whenever at the living room, but you know, a lot of times opening, whatever. You know, I take pride in how quickly I get off the stage. You know, I really do. I want to make room for the next band. I know they're waiting, and I'm not going to sit around and react to the band or it's off. But so I like a small setup so I can concentrate on playing. You know, not to say that if you have an effects board and you're getting a lot of sounds and you're very versatile and you could get many, many sounds, that it's impossible for me to get. That's the upside. But I don't like carrying around, you know, reverb tanks or.
So you do no pedals? No, like, I thought on your record sometimes I heard like slapback delay so that in some of that country stuff, but it might have just been my
I mean, maybe we added it later. I mean, you know. I mean, that almost sounds like...
Yeah, it does almost.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of times...
It could just have been that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of try and make the sound, you know. What is it?
You almost had that slapbacky kind of sound going on without
it. But it's not there now. And that was, I moved my hand up. I think that's what it was. I'm trying to remember the song. That's it. Yeah, I can't play it. It's slow. But anyway, yeah, that was. So that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Now, you play all of these things at the living room every week. Right?
That's correct.
So every Monday night at the living room.
Every Monday, yeah, at 10 o'clock
10?
With Stefan Crump and Tony Mason.
Cool.
And we've been doing it a while. It's you were there.
Absolutely.
And it's fun. Tony Shearer right now is playing at 9 o'clock.
He's also guitar player. You know, it was
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic guitar player. And I mean, that's the nice thing. You know, I go there early so I can hear him. And you know, and we always play something different. You know, we try and you know, I always try and talk and you know, see how everybody's doing. But it's you know, the band keeps getting better and better, and now and then there's real nice moments of intensity. It's kind of a perfect size venue in a lot of ways. It's like, you know, and I mean, every once in a while you look up and there's some, you know, Lou Reed is there, you know, and you're like, hey, I learned to play major scale because of you, Lou.
Wow, that's
you
cool.
know, yeah. And
the thing, I got turned onto your record earlier this year, kind of March, April or something like that. One of my friends said, I don't know if you've heard of this guy or not, but you need to get this record.
Really?
Yeah, so
oh, nice.
I bought it on iTunes, and it's a really, really amazing record. Now, tell me a bit about how you came. Did you record it in New York? What's the personnel for the band? Any funny stories about recording it or anything that you want to share?
Well, you know, gosh, it was, you know, no record's really easy to make, at least for me. So, but of all the records I've made, we really planned for this one. Anton Fear produced it. Me and Anton talked at length on what to record, and he wanted to make it a more of a versatile record than I really wanted originally. I mean, I kind of like records sometimes where they're like chocolate cake. You know, you're in the mood for chocolate cake, and you put on chocolate cake, and you're happy. You know, that was your mood. Like Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. You know, if it's a little bit of a rainy day out, you're like, yeah, I'll put on Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. You know, and or if it's not, you know, you put on a Motorhead. You know, and there's something else, and there, you know, every track is going to be like drinking coffee. So, but Anton really wanted peaks and valleys, and to, in his words, like show what I could do, you know, the full spectrum. So we agreed on that, and then the other thing that I was really concerned about was, I mean, normally when we record, well, sorry, it's always a compromise situation, and I recorded that with all Princetons, and we were just saying that Princeton's, you know, everyone is afraid they're not loud enough. But if you go into a studio that's a wood room, those Princetons are shriekingly loud. I mean, Roy Buchanan, my mentor, and I know a lot of your viewers probably have heard of him, those who haven't, played on a Vibralex but wouldn't even turn it up to 10, which I was amazed by because it really does sound like it's on 10. But the thing is, you know, you always got to put your amp, put baffles around it or cover it with some, you know, insulated, you know, kind of material, and then put on headphones, and, you know, you're playing, and with me, I mean, we've played every Monday. I use headphones a lot in studio situations, but it's not something I've played 100 times at midnight and, you know, in front of beautiful women and drunken guys from England. You know, it's a completely different vibe. You know, I mean, you become, there's a circular thing. It's not about showing off. It's like the energy of the audience goes through you and then you give it back, and you're just a vessel. And yet you put on headphones and, you know, you can't see the drummer, and you hear the clock ticking subconsciously, and you're like, well, that's $100 right there. I just scratched my nose, you know, and I didn't want that. I more than fidelity, I wanted vibe, and I wanted to enjoy playing as much as I do at the living room. But we ended up, I think, getting both. And I think it's the best sounding record in some ways that I've made. I'm really proud of all my records. And I'm surprised that I feel that way, but I don't listen to them a lot, but when I go back and listen to them, and I just listened to Table for One the other day, and I was like thinking, wow, that's a really fine record. But this record, I really wanted a good guitar sound, and I wanted to be comfortable. So we spent a lot of time doing that, and at some point we just said, okay, well, there's going to be bleed. But that's okay, and the producer won't yell at me, or the engineer won't go, hey, there's bleed. You know, this was agreed before. There's going to be bleed. So there was bleed. But I think it sounds great, you know, and so that was one thing we really consciously did. And, you know, I mean, some of my favorite recordings are horrible quality. You know, I mean, there's some, like, somebody taped it on a cassette, you know, in 1981, and, you know, it's exciting and it's compressed, and there's some Charlie, yeah, I mean, there's a good example. Who cares, you know? I mean, if they really sounded like Wynton Marsalis, you know, it might not be as enjoyable in some ways. I like it, they're raw, you know, and I like raw music, you know, so, too. So I really thought, I really want a performance and a vibe more than I do, you know, for it to be Sgt. Pepper's, you know, which is even now antiquated recording technique. But
was it all as a group? So you all played at the same time,
yeah.
like multiple takes, just trying to get the one that captured the thing.
Yeah, and we, you know, it was fun. I mean, we, you know, we had a couple of days to do it. The first day was a wash, and then it got down to 2 days, which isn't a lot of time to record.
Oh, you did the whole record in 2 days?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
dude. Well, we recorded the record in 2 days. Yeah, I always do. I mean, that's why, I mean, somebody was this morning asking me about the song Maceo on the record, which is a drop D tuning, and they asked me if I had to buy a lesson by mail, which I do. And they said they really loved the solo, and I said, you know, the solo was originally a scratch solo intended so a steel guitar player could hear it and kind of play the melody. And I haven't listened to it in months, and I listened to it this morning. I was like, hey, you know, it's pretty good. I mean, but at the time I was horrified, you know, I was like, I didn't even want that to be the solo. And I mean, it's not that track is particularly tainted. All my records are like that, and I think they hold up. And I mean, let's go back again. I mean, maybe Beatle references are tiring, but I love John Lennon's vocal quality in Twist and Shout, as I'm sure you do. And you know, he did, it was the last song they recorded, he had lost his voice, and that was it, he had to do it. And I like that. I like that his voice was worn out and it's cracking, and you could hear, humanity, or I was going to say humanness. I don't think it's a word, but you can, humanness in his performance. And I don't know if I always achieved that, but yeah, you know, when you're making a record these days, you know, you got to be ready. You got to get it right. I mean, we mixed it, we recorded it in 2 days. I went back and did the back burner solo. I overdubbed that, and I did Awful Pretty Awful. But everything else is live. I mean, my last 3 records all have been live. So one is mistakenly called like American Hips Live, because I don't want it to be sold as a live album. But they're all live in the studio. And but some of the 10 Gallon Cat records, like Heavy, isn't. It's a studio record. And I think that stands up really well. And, you know, in some ways, I mean, it's a trade-off. You know, some of the solos on Heavy are perfect. You know, there was some, I mean, I didn't want some of the songs on Orange that are on it, you know, because I was like, oh, could do so much better. But no, I mean, but it doesn't, no one got it.
It's the spirit that comes through, and that's the thing that well, personally, I like to hear the spirit of stuff more than, you know, if that's there, that's the thing. That's why you buy a record. Anyway.
No, me too. And so that's why we recorded the way we did.
That's it. Yeah, and it worked. Now, anyone who wanted to learn to play any of the songs on your record, you got a lot of them as lessons, right? And you do a lessons by posting where people can buy, send you an email, tell them what they like, and buy individual songs.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for asking, Justin. Yeah, I do as what you do. And it's been about a 9-year, I've been doing it for about 9 years, so I have a ton of lessons. Many of the lessons aren't my songs. A lot of times I'll do my songs because they were requested, and then they're up. Because some of my, I mean, I'm a little self-governing in the way that I don't want to just show it in one of my songs if I don't think it's a good path to other genres and other applications. For example, one song is Twister. You know, okay, so that's, I mean, you could learn how to play changes, you learn how to play double stops that aren't, those kind of things. And so I made that a lesson right off, because I think it's a good lesson. You know, I mean, whatever people want to learn, I mean, if you want to learn Enter Sandman by, Metallica, and you learn it great and it makes you a better guitar player, I'm all for it. But my lessons are usually geared towards, learning. So many of the lessons I have, Travis picking and voice leading, where, we talk about the highest note, of there's D minor 7, where that might not sound right now, but it will here, so I just did a chromatic scale up to there, going, and I mean, those kind of chords, that's what we all play. Somebody shows us D minor 7, we play that, but I don't know, I really don't like that chord, I don't like that it has fifths on the bottom sometimes, even though you saw me play and you heard the words. I mean, sometimes I almost play like punk rock kind of guitar, but I like it in that context. But if I'm going to play, a D minor 7 chord, I'd rather go to other things other than just grips that are the most common, But I mean, so But so yeah, I do the lessons by mail, and they're very specific. And I try. I mean, I was just kind of playing that. Sometimes I'll do it. I always try to do tunes because I think a musician should know songs. Mm-hmm. And I think most of the songs, at least on my lessons thing, have common progressions that are a bunch of other songs as well.
So when you're teaching songs for the lessons, you're kind of arranging them so there's stuff for people to learn?
Well, it depends. I mean, I will, in a private lesson, I'll just kind of let somebody play, and usually people don't know how to play over changes at all. Like, I mean, they don't know how to play over blues changes. And that's usually what I'll talk about, and I did it with at the beginning, bend it up to the major third. But I usually mold my lesson to who's sitting there, and I'm not going to be like, here's, there's some things I have prepared, and I don't usually ask the student, like, well, what do you want to learn this week? Because I kind of feel like it's my job. I mean, if I see somebody playing pool and the cue sticks right here, I'm not going to say, well, what do you want to do this week? I'm going to say, look, you're supposed to, put it through here, And I mean, I feel, I don't know, I get a little annoyed when I hear that, like, they're like somebody's last teacher, like, so what do you want to do this week? It's like, I don't know, I didn't go to like English in high school, and the teacher was like, so what do you want to read? And you know what I mean? They were like, you have to read Faulkner, And I'm not saying I'm a big slave driver. I always try and give the lesson immersed in chocolate, even if it's broccoli, it's covered with chocolate, and because I think it's my job to keep people playing, not keep them suffering or feeling bad. But usually I'll see what, this person's at this level, and, and I have printouts and stuff, but it isn't by rote, it's everybody's different, and learning guitar is really, really hard. I mean, I'm still struggling with this thing. I mean, you got 4 C's, Is that 5? See, I just learned something.
There's a new one. I never knew it was
this one. I forgot about him. Yeah, he's good. I don't know, maybe not. But I like this one better. But there's it's like, well, which C do you play? Obviously, you might not want to play that C a lot, but it's a very difficult instrument. The tuning, remembering things. It's very hard. So anyway,
it's great. Now, your website where people can find stuff is jimcampilongo.com.
Yeah, jimcampilongo.com, www. I guess you don't have to say that.
Yes.
And there's lessons by mail. There's my gig thing. There's Facebook. Cool. The internet. There's this thing called the internet.
Yeah,
and,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, me too. And I know I like the internet. It's nice. It's how people like us meet.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we couldn't have done this 15 years ago.
No.
So at the beginning of this, when I said like, well, everybody's just into the computer, there is an upside.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times it helps people, meet and reach out and learn. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, man.
Oh, it was my
been a real
pleasure.
pleasure. Thanks for sharing some stuff, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
I hope so.
Take care.
Okay.